Hello, everybody. Welcome to the International Open Seminar on Semiotics, a tribute to John Deely on the 50th anniversary of his passing. Today, as you know, we would have a presentation titled Semiotics and Dark Web Memes, which would be given by Dr. Robert Gehl. Unfortunately, Dr. Gehl won't be able to participate here with us today because he's having some problems. He's moving, I think, to another place. He has some work commitment, so unfortunately, he won't be able to participate here. He apologized himself for not being here, but uh, anyway, we will have a session by Dr. Gehl, but in a different way, because Dr. Gehl asked us to read a text from a chapter of one of his books that in the future will be published. So it is a chapter that we are going to read today, written by Dr. Gehl, and of an unpublished book, a possible book of Dr. Gehl. And Robert Junqueira, he will take the place of Dr. Gehl and he will read the text. Robert Junqueira, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. But before starting the presentation, I would like to introduce Dr. Gehl. So Dr. Robert Gehl is a Fulbright scholar and award-winning author whose research focuses on contemporary communication technologies. He is currently the F.J. Endowed Research Chair of Communication at Louisiana Tech University. He has published over 2 dozen articles in journals such as New Media and Society, Communication Theory, Social Media plus Society, and Media, Culture, and Society. His books include Reverse Engineering Social Media, which won the Nancy Bayan Book Award from the Association of Internet Researchers, and Within the Dark Web, published by the MIT Press in 2018, and Social Engineering, forthcoming from MIT Press in 2022 this year. So Robert, I think Robert Junqueira is one of the organizers of this seminar. So Robert, I think you can start. You can explain a little more about the text, and you can read the text and also show the PowerPoint.
Thank you, William. Thank you very much. So we will start. I hope the screen is showing up all right. William?
It is.
So
Sorry,
this type.
Robert, we are seeing the PowerPoint. Sorry.
This talk was to be titled Semiotics and Dark Web Memes by Professor Dr. Robert W. Gehl. And alternatively, we will have a presentation of the early draft of a potential book chapter titled On the Cultural Power of the Mariana's Web Meme. We all wish Dr. Gehl the greatest possible success in this exciting new phase of his life and academic career. And we all hope that such a stage will be crowned with joy and that he will not fail to remain a source of inspiration to us all. So, starting with Dr. Gehl's text. 2012 was a heady year for the dark web. The Silk Road drug market, hosted as a Tor hidden service, had been in the public eye for months since a 2011 Gawker article declared it like an Amazon that sold mind altering chemicals. Another anonymizing network, the Invisible Internet Project, was seeing increased traffic thanks to a mirror of the Pirate Bay. And the oldest dark web network, Freenet, participated in another Google Summer of Code, this time focusing on increasing social networking applications on that network. But perhaps the most important dark web event of 2012 was the anonymous publication of another infographic of the ocean on the image sharing site Imgur. The infographic maps the layers of the internet in great detail, using an iceberg to hammer home the often repeated trope that the surface internet that most of us see is only a tiny fraction of the internet itself, with so much lying below the surface. Below the surface lies darkness, the dark web, hidden websites full of strange, dangerous, and powerful knowledge. But the graphic goes further. There are layers beyond the lowest depths of the iceberg, layers beyond even Tor hidden services or Freenet free sites. There are 5 layers of the internet to be exact. And at the bottom, the most mysterious layer, layer 5, is the Mariana's web. The infographic is a joke, specifically a troll, an attempt to see who bites and believes that there is such a thing as a Mariana's web. And bite people did. After the posting of this infographic and similar ones, such as these 2014 image levels of the deep web. After the posting of this image, question and answer sites such as Quora and the dark web site Hidden Answers started seeing users ask variations on the question, how do I reach the Mariana's web? In addition to these question sites, in my 4 years of participant observation on dark web social networking sites, I saw multiple people ask about the Mariana's web. And like so many internet hoaxes, the Mariana's web has attracted articles that debunk it. Perhaps the most eloquent and harsh is from the blogger Violet Blue, who judges the meme to be lurid, spooky bullshit, an epic troll that people have interpreted as fact. Her desire to debunk the meme is in reaction to the fact that it started to be taken as fact, not just by anxious Quora users or dark web in ingenues, but also by internet security firms peddling their services. Debunking this meme is, of course, a valid pursuit. But debunking ignores important questions. Why did this meme evoke such curiosity? What makes it possible for people to believe the meme? What does this say about the public perceptions of the dark web as well as dialectics of contemporary digital culture? Rather than critique this meme as untrue and thus dismiss it, I want to take it seriously. As Natale and Ballatore note about technological myths, it is not important if a belief corresponds or not to reality, but rather what it reveals about the cultural context from which it originated. As I will argue in this essay, even though it is bullshit, the Mariana's web, does indeed reveal a great deal about our contemporary cultural context. To explore the Mariana's web, I will first briefly explore scholarship on internet memes and cultural myths, considering how a meme may scale up to such an extent that it becomes part of a larger societal fabric. I then briefly lay out the ruthless semiotics of actor network theory to consider how memes as myths associate various elements. In this case, the Mariana's web associates the internet as an ocean, this metaphor of the internet as ocean, uh, the trope of immaterial information and contemporary post-truth politics, and I explore each in turn. Finally, I will conclude by arguing that the Mariana's web is real. On memes and myths from subculture to societal scale. Internet memes and cultural myths are different things, but there are intriguing overlaps between the two. Internet memes, hereafter memes, with apologies to the Dawkinites, are defined by communication scholar Leimer Schiffman as units of popular culture that are circulated, imitated, and transformed by individual internet users, creating a shared cultural experience in the process. Drawing on both biological definitions as well as the more recent popular culture conception, Schiffman notes that the concept of meme is attractive to digital media scholars for three reasons. First, they pass along from person to person, yet gradually scale up into shared social phenomenon. Second, they reproduce by various means of imitation. Finally, they are diffused through digital media via competition and selection. Memes appear in a wide range of digital forms, from text to images to video. They often rely on picking out a key signifier within an original digital media object and placing it into a new, often incongruous or absurd, context, with subsequent memes building on the original recontextualization in a hyper self referential manner. Jean Bourget's his analysis of Jean Bourget's analysis of YouTube memes shows how specific signifiers within a video, in the case she studies the breathing patterns of the singer of Chocolate Rain, are lifted from the original version and replicated ad nauseum in parody, remix, rebuttal, and sometimes cruel mockery. In the Mariana's web meme, the key signifier excised from an original context is the metaphor of internet as ocean, with a surface and depths. This connotation is overlaid with more specific layers, each containing obscure or deeply disturbing references, a point I will return to. As objects that are shared, iterative, and embedded in internet communities, where competition and selection are common practices, memes make for excellent markers for what can be called, following the British cultural studies of the 1970s, subcultural practices. Indeed, Schiffman's later article with Asaf Nissenbaum explores the use of memes in the online image board for Shun as tools for contested social capital. As they argue, the deep connection between memes and the culture of some online communities means that they function as cues of membership, distinguishing in-group members from mere passersby. In this sense, memes constitute forms of cultural capital. Command of the bewildering meaning of memes, from ironic to cruel, becomes a marker of in group status within online communities. Indeed, the Mariana's Web meme has been used in precisely this way. Its use is predominantly within the subculture of privacy conscious, anonymous network using technophiles. To be more precise, this myth may seem limited to the initiates into such a culture, because after all, the Mariana's Web meme functions as a series of jokes meant to weed out those who simply don't know better. In other words, the Mariana's Web meme is a classic troll in the sense Whitney Phillips describes, something that was put online to see who would bite and take it seriously. For example, in my experience of dark web social networking sites, a weekly ritual involved a new user signing up and asking a variation on, okay, so I've made it into Tor. How do I go deeper? How do I get to the Mariana's Web? This would allow for another member of the social network to perform techno-elitism by patiently explaining that the Mariana's Web does not exist, that there are no consumer grade quantum computers, that there are no layers deeper than Tor or Freenet or I2P. From this perspective, the jokey Mariana's meme functions to help distinguish in group members from mere passers-by. In contrast, while memes like the Mariana's Web may appear to be limited to specific subcultures and their particular practices and symbolic economies, cultural myths, on the other hand, imply a broader society-wide shared belief. Writing about technological myths, Natale and Ballatore note that the term myth resonates widely in the foundations of European cultural and media studies, particularly in the intellectual legacy of French semiotician Roland Barthes, who described modern mythologies as the dominant cultural ideologies of our time. Natale and Ballatore draw on narrative studies of myths, which suggest that myths become ideologically powerful due in part to their repetition over time. As narrative tropes are repeated and circulated over and over again and are used in multiple contexts, they can become deeply embedded in the cultural imaginary. As Raymond Williams notes in Keywords, this meaning of myth is distinct from myth as a pejorative, as in the idea that X is true is a myth. Anthropologists, Williams notes, saw myth as an account of origins and as an active form of social organization. The relationship between myth as deep wisdom and myth as lie is a dialectic that probably will never be resolved. But Natale and Ballatore, following the insights of the sociology of scientific knowledge, note that regardless of whether a myth is true or false, they must be explored because of their broad cultural significance. Thus, it appears that internet memes, tied as they are to hyper self referential subcultural practices, may operate on a smaller scale than cultural myths. But returning to internet meme scholars, the gap between meme and myth may not be so wide, or at least not insurmountable. Schiffman, Nissenbaum, Bourges, and other meme scholars point to the potential for scaling up in memes as a key reason why scholars find them so fascinating. A connotation found within a meme may in fact become a broadly accepted way of thinking, a metaphor to live by. Indeed, although she wrote before the current concept of meme became popular, British cultural studies media scholar Marina Heck's work on ideological analysis and semiotics points to a key path by which a limited signifier, in this case a connotation limited to a specific subculture, may amplify to a societal level. Expanding on Barth's, Heck argues that the difference between myth and connotation depends on the amplitude of the lexicons from which the concepts are drawn. The connoted meaning in pig equals policeman and in pig equals male chauvinist are clearly linked to the lexicons of identifiable subgroups. By contrast, myths seem identifiable with the lexicons of very large groups, if not the society as a whole. Myth, therefore, differs from connotation at the moment at which it attempts to universalize for the whole society meanings which are special to particular lexicons. In the process of universalization, these meanings, which in the last instance are particular to certain lexicons, assume the amplitude of reality itself and are therefore naturalized. Thus, we might say myths are connotations which have become dominant, hegemonic. Thus, a tightly limited connotation found in a certain lexicon, whether it be the Black Liberation Movement term pig connoting cop, or it be the network pundit term ocean connoting internet. So, a tightly limited connotation found in a certain lexicon may, through a process of universalization, become a shared cultural symbol. In other words, memes can become amplified into myths. The very process by which memes propagate, sharing, iteration, and articulation with cultural meanings, enable a meme to burst forth from a limited context into the broader cultural imaginary. This path from local to universalized may be contingent, but there is no disputing the power of cultural myths, even if their origins are the joke laden, ironic, sometimes cruel, and nihilistic world of internet memes. Their contingency, however, gives us a chance to trace them with anti-essentialist methods and theories. I turn to them next. Associating spatial metaphors, immateriality, and post-truth. For guidance, for guidance on how the elements of the Mariana's web meme are brought together, we can turn to the actor network theory concept of association. Scholars such as John Law, Madeleine Acriche, Michael Callan, and Bruno Latour have all explored the means by which disparate elements, which can be material artifacts, concepts, natural processes, or organizational practices, are brought together, associated, in any given artifact. In actor network theory analysis, there are no a priori assumptions about who or what has the power to bring together the elements. Rather, the approach is highly empirical, tracing the relations that comprise the artifact and diagnosing the relations in terms of power. Actor network theory has proven to be methodologically supple, providing a language to describe how complex systems, including aircraft, hospitals, or social media, are brought together and maintained. While these systems are far more complex than an individual meme, actor network theories roots in semiotic analysis. While these systems are far more complex than an individual meme, actor network theory's roots in semiotic analysis keeps it quite relevant here. As John Law puts it, actor network theory is a ruthless application of semiotics. It tells that entities take their form and acquire their attributes as a result of their relations with other entities. In this scheme of things, entities have no inherent qualities. Essentialist divisions are thrown on the bonfire of the dualisms. Thus, this combination of ruthless semiotics and anti essentialism is quite amenable to meme analysis. After all, memes are comprised of hyper-referential signifiers, and their ironic aspects certainly undermine any vestiges of essentialism, even if they invoke essentialism to ironic effect. Like any actor network, a meme cannot be considered in isolation, but rather as a part of larger webs of meaning, materiality, and practice. Here, I turn to specific associations made within and through the Mariana's web meme, tracing the meme's connotations to larger ways of thinking about the internet. Given the sheer complexity of the references, jokes, and parodies found within the Mariana's web meme, it is impossible to trace all connections. But here, the connections I trace go a long way towards explaining the broader cultural power of this meme become myth. Deep web, boats, nets, and oceans. The simplest connotation in the Mariana's web meme is the metaphor of internet as ocean. The Mariana Trench is, of course, the deepest point in any ocean on Earth. Its use in the Mariana's web meme as a symbol of a web beyond the web, or deepest layer of the internet, has its roots in early 2000s thinking about the capacities of web search engines. In the early 2000s, Google's search engine and algorithms helped alter how people viewed the World Wide Web. As John Battelle argues, thanks in large part to Google, search has moved from a useful service on the edge of most internet users' experience to the de facto interface for computing in the information age. Search has become a universally understood method of navigating our information universe. Put a search box in front of just about anybody, and they'll know what to do with it. However, despite Google's triumph of crawling, collecting, and analyzing, in 2001, Michael Bergman of the consulting firm Bright Planet sounded a note caution. Searching on the internet today can be compared to dragging a net across the surface of the ocean. While a great deal may be caught in the net, there is still a wealth of information that is deep, and therefore missed. The reason is simple. Most of web's information is buried far down on dynamically generated sites, and standard search engines never find it. Bergman is now known as the coiner of the term deep web. This term, deep web, which refers to information beyond the reach of Google, Yahoo, or Bing's indexing systems. The deep web, in this definition, includes websites behind paywalls, temporary sites created dynamically from the interaction between a browser and a database, and sites that contain media not easily indexed. Today, thanks to Bergman's white paper, a common symbol of this hidden information is an ocean, with surface boats, standard search engines, surface boats trawling with dragnets, and submarines, customized proprietary search engines, patrolling its depths. What do these submarines hope to find? Bergman's white paper on the deep web offers some answers. The deep web has the prospect of yielding quality results that cannot be obtained by any other means. Results including authoritative sites such as government databases, shopping services, and publications. Likewise, in their 2001 book, The Invisible Web, Sherman and Price suggest that the deep web contains vast amounts of authoritative and current information. Even after almost 2 decades of Google searching, the deep web lives on in the information resource discovery literature. In his 2012 book, The Hidden Web, school librarian William Sharon notes that even the most sophisticated searcher, no matter what engine they use, is only touching the surface of the information available on the internet. Sharon goes on to catalog a wealth of information sources for his target audience of graduate students in library sciences, arguing that they will need this information to satisfy their future patrons. Thus, despite Google's mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, critics have pointed to the deep web as evidence that there is always something beyond Google's or Bing's or Yahoo's results. This is a repeated anxiety. No matter how deep one goes into the results returned by a standard web search engine, there must be something deeper. There must be something more. For authors such as Bergman, Sherman, Price, or Sharon, finding this deeper information would give businesses, entrepreneurs, students, or governments an edge on their counterparts who only remain on the surface. Using the ocean as a metaphor for digital information, a metaphor also found in phrases like surfing the web, Bergman and others established a powerful way of thinking about the depths of informational resources. More important is their implication that we are competing to plumb these depths and find information that will give us an advantage in the knowledge economy. In part, the Mariana's Web meme taps into the anxiety that someone else, hackers, government agents, human traffickers, is already deep into the network and thus has control of the information that shapes our lives. The graphic replicates the spatial metaphor of Bergman's ocean to present the internet as a series of layers. The surface, the tip of an informational iceberg, is familiar to us, comprised of the common web. As the reader progresses through the five layers, however, things get more and more strange. Level 2 has Google locked results and FTP servers. Level 3 features sex tapes, hackers, and mathematical research. Level 4 features the charter web, promises personal records, banned books, and corporate exchange. The deepest level, level 5, contains the most cryptic info of all. Quoting the graphic, the day you get here is the day OP is no longer a faggot. Thus, the only way for us to know what's going on and to truly be free, that's what the infographic satirically implies, is to go deeper, no matter how difficult or frightening the journey may be. The immateriality of information. While ocean minded ways of thinking about information and the internet appear in specific forms, for example, infographics that illustrate how information is searched, another element associated in the Mariana's web meme is the internet as immaterial trope. This second aspect of the myth, that of immateriality, draws on broader cultural conceptions of how digital information can be distinguished from previous material media forms, especially paper. For example, in their analysis of the Apple iMac G5 desktop computer's place within postmodern capitalism, Scheffer and Duham note that the G5's integration of CPU into a flat screen is symbolic of the eliding of networks of production. Apple's marketing of the computer emphasized how these once cumbersome machines are blending with surrounding surfaces, no longer reminding users of the means through which computations are processed. This shrinking of computing devices has, of course, only accelerated since Scheffer and Durham published their article in 2007. No longer after their article, the discourse of cloud computing gained prominence as computational processes are shifted from end users' devices to the cloud, a network diagram metaphor that emphasizes ephemerality and even immateriality. Alongside these, CPUs have shrunk to fit not only into our pockets as smartphones, but also into a new range of embedded Internet of Things devices. Moreover, wireless networking also removes cumbersome reminders of networks such as cables and modems. Perhaps the clearest vision of the immateriality trope is found in the Corning Corporation's A Day Made of Glass promotional video of the Corning Corporation titled A Day Made of Glass, where nearly every surface in our homes, offices, and automobiles is a computer interface, with the materiality of the network itself nowhere to be found. As the material reminders of the vast informational infrastructure recede into the background, and because the ultimate storage of information on computers is hidden from end users, often on distant server farms, many commentators on contemporary digital media have claimed that information is, in fact, immaterial and hence endless. From Bill Gates' call for friction free capitalism to inventor and Google engineer Ray Kurzweil's futurism of immortality through digitization, this cultural trope resonates with similar ideas about endless economic growth and the boundlessness of human thinking, where atoms are replaced by seemingly immaterial bits. The Mariana's Web meme taps into this information is material trope in two ways. First, the third deepest part of the infographic is labeled 80% of the internet exists below this line, which is explained further. This is rather not 80% of the physical information, but 80% of the information that produces effect that affects you directly. Thus, the author invokes the metaphysics of boundless immaterial information. In this case, information that influences us against our wills. Second, the infographic invokes quantum computing. While quantum computing is an accepted computer science pursuit, the broader adjective quantum has been appropriated by New Age thinkers who rely upon the term to legitimate their mystical claims. A process that Rational Wiki dubs quantum, ooh, quantum, ooh. In this line of thinking, the hard problem of consciousness, the difficult question of qualia, and what makes us conscious beings, will not be explained in physical terms, but in the transformation of the physical into the immaterial that happens, according to the New Agers, via quantum processes. Here, the gap between material and immaterial is where God lives. Through these two invocations of non-physical information that affects us and quantum computing, the Mariana's Web meme articulates with broader cultural myths about the immateriality of information as well as its powerful effects upon our lives. Of course, the conception of information as immaterial and the spatial metaphors of oceans and icebergs contradict. The Mariana Trench, however deep, is still part of the materiality of Earth's geology. It may be massive, but it is it is finite. The immateriality trope and its related forms, like myths of instant communication, is predicated on ignorance of basic physics. Information is always material. It requires storage in material form, and moving it from place to place requires material transport. Given that the Earth is finite and it takes material and energy to store information, the immateriality concept is in fact ecologically destructive. However, returning to actor network theory, it is possible for a thing to hold together contradictory elements in an association. To test the test is less about whether the contradictory elements truly belong there and more about their effects in the world. In this case, the spread of the Mariana's Web meme demonstrates the meme's ability to hold together both the potential for mastering finite cyberspace as well as the promise of endless information if only one can dig deeper into the network. Perhaps most prevalent in the Mariana's Web, with the possible exception of illicit pornography, are invocations of mysterious conspiracy theories. They are particularly common in level 4, with the caveat that one needs a closed shell system, with the caveat that one needs a closed shell system to see them. Tesla experiment plans, Brothers engine plans, World War II experiment successes, Joseph Mengele successes, the Law of Thirteens, and of course, the location of Atlantis. Conspiracy theories are, of course, nothing new, but they certainly have a particular resonance during they had a particular resonance during the Donald Trump presidency. Indeed, as I write this, journalists are scrambling to unravel the QAnon conspiracy meme, the QAnon conspiracy meme, a confusing mix of musings about the deep state and a worldwide ring of shadowy Satanist pedophiles bent on global domination, with only Donald Trump standing in their way. Conspiracy theories are an extreme symptom of post truth politics. In his analysis of the uses of post truth rhetorical strategies, Tim Gibson notes that the decline of symbolic efficiency noted by Zizek has been manifested in post truth political rhetoric, wherein a powerful actor simply repeats something enough for it to stick and become part of common sense. As Gibson defines it, post truth politics refers to the specific political and rhetorical strategies that emerge from and take advantage of the circular relationship between the endless reflexivity of late modernity and a loss of faith in institutions that anchor truth claims, a dynamic amplified but not created by an emergent a dynamic amplified but not created by an emergent and participatory digital media ecology. Gibson draws on Anthony Giddens' observation of the self reflexivity of late modernity, where institutions and practices are always open to be questioned. Such rational questioning of assumptions was a key marker of the Enlightenment, but now is spiraling into endless debates. These laws of foundation then this loss of foundation then sets the discursive conditions necessary for the proliferation of popular mistrust. Like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, we have peered behind the curtain and discovered that the big other is just a bunch of fallible human beings, no different really than the rest of us. In this sense, the proliferation of conspiracy theories that has arguably amplified since the popularization of the internet in the 1990s should not be seen as irrational or paranoid, but in fact as a symptom of the very sort of critical skepticism valued since the Enlightenment. As Steph Oppers notes, we have moved from the sublime of nature to the sublime of modern society, expressed in fear and awe of the invisible yet immensely powerful forces that are operative behind the cultural screens, underneath and beyond the empirical surface of modern life. A consequence of this hyper skepticism and the proliferation of science within digital media is, of course, a wild cacophony of accusations, claims, fears, and jokes, and the Mariana's web meme takes part. The truth is out there, the Mariana's Web promises, as a record of all the things. The internet must contain evidence of the powerful actors who shape our lives. If the internet is arranged in layers, with each requiring increasing technical skills to access, and despite the contradiction, the internet is vast and infinite, the determined researcher that theoretically take the wool from their own eyes and come to face with the hidden institutions that actually run the world. So if the internet is arranged in layers, with each requiring increasing technical skill to access, and despite the contradiction, the internet is vast and infinite, the determined researcher can theoretically take the wool from their own eyes and come face to face with the hidden institutions that actually run the world. So, conclusion, the Mariana's Web is real. Here, I want to take my initial stance that we should take memes like the Mariana's Web seriously and take it to a logical extreme. I want to believe. I want to say the Mariana's Web is real. And in a pragmatic sense, it is or was real. Someone set up a Tor hidden service with its name. Certainly, the Mariana's Web hidden service, now defunct as so many Tor hidden services end up, simply added to the joke. It was a collection of cat facts. According to a thread on the Hidden Answers site, a Tor and I2P based hidden dark website. So, according to a thread on such site, one must read all cat facts before entry to Mariana's Web is approved. Skipping a cat fact will be noticed by the powers that be, and your entry will be declined. The Mariana's Web, instantiated on the dark web as a joke site, becomes real through internet meme practices of imitation and transformation. But beyond someone setting up a dark web site titled Mariana's Web, the Mariana's Web is also real in the sense that conspiracy theories have real world effects. This is the ultimate test of any association of elements, that it affects the world. Witness Infowars, QAnon, Pizzagate, all of which had consequences as people have appeared at Trump rallies, blocked commuter traffic, or most disturbingly, brought guns to small businesses to demand the truth. This is the point cultural and technological myth scholars such as Natale and Ballatore are making. Myths matter to people. The Mariana's Web meme as myth, while not strictly the same as the more recent QAnon meme, can possibly direct the real anxieties of people toward real ends. Taking the streets, protesting, even violence, the desire to go deeper into a network and the desire to angrily confront perceived oppressors, including agents in the deep state, are perhaps not so distinct. We must take such meme myths seriously, even if they are initially jokes to weed out the knowledgeable from the naive. Finally, a less sensationalistic, yet no less real effect of the Mariana's Web and its associated ideas of depth, immateriality, and post truth is found in the marketing of dark web scans. Perhaps you have no desire to look past the surface internet because you are afraid of what you will find. After all, the Mariana's web meme, not to mention so much coverage of the dark web, presents it as a terrifying place As the saying goes, there's an app for that. The dark web scan offered by Experian, a consumer credit reporting agency. In a commercial, none other than America's ex-mayor Rudy Giuliani, promotes the dark web scan. Giuliani looks solemnly at the camera and says, "With 16 years in cybersecurity, I can tell you that criminals are scouring the dark web, trying to steal your identity and your personal information." That's why the commercial narrator tells us Experian monitors the dark web globally and alerts you to suspicious activity so you can act before a criminal can. Experian's blog post defining the dark web features none other than the iceberg ocean model of the internet. Experian's blog post defining the dark web features none other than the iceberg ocean model of the internet. Here, the line of thinking lampooned by the Mariana's web reappears as a terrifying sales pitch. Pay for our credit monitoring service. Pay for our credit monitoring service, or prepare to have your data hacked and sold on the dark web, the deepest layer of the internet. Never mind the fact that, per Experian's privacy policy, in order to get the dark web scan, one must give one's name, address, social security number, date of birth, telephone number, and email address to Experian, the very personal information one ought to protect. This is also not to mention that, after providing this wealth of personal information, one must hope that Experian itself doesn't get hacked, like its competitor Equifax did. Moving from real, if satirical, dark websites to real bodies protesting global conspiracies to the global scan of Experian, we see the effects of the Mariana's Web way of thinking. Ultimately, the Mariana's Web meme has become cultural myth for understandable reasons. The promises of digital technology come along with terrifying perils of the unknown and of information overload. Our collective knowledge appears to grow infinitely, making each of us feel small and uninformed. The institutions which govern our lives appear to be more and more powerful, and yet abstracted from our daily lives, with politicians who lie so many times that we believe them taking the helm. So the institutions which govern our lives appear to be more and more powerful, and yet abstracted from our daily lives, with politicians who lie so many times that we believe them taking the helm. In the face of this, going deeper, even into a frightening, inscrutable, and ultimately bullshit network, seems like the only way forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert, for reading the text. And of course, Dr. Gehl, thank you very much for having written this very interesting text. I really enjoyed this presentation. Unfortunately, Dr. Gehl is not here, but I think it was a very interesting reading. Thank you. Tomorrow we have another presentation. It is titled Logic as a Liberal Art. So you all are invited to attend tomorrow again. So I think we can finish the broadcasting on YouTube. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow.